It was an ordinary Tuesday morning at a Starbucks in Washington, D.C. The air carried the familiar scent of roasted beans and caramel syrups as baristas called out names scribbled on paper cups. Among them was Elena Rivera, a 24-year-old barista working back-to-back shifts to chip away at her college debt. Her days followed a rhythm. Brew coffee, smile at strangers, hide the heaviness she carried. The bell above the door chimed, and the room fell quiet. Conversations hushed, phones lifted. Walking in with two Secret Service agents was none other than President Donald Trump. Elena froze. She'd served politicians before, but never him, not in person. Trump scanned the menu with surprising nonchalance and said, "Medium coffee, black." The order seemed simple, but the room buzzed with tension. Elena's hands shook as she reached for a cup. She scrawled Donald across it and slid it down the counter. When he took the drink, she noticed something unexpected in his expression. It wasn't the confident mask from television. It was quieter, almost weary. For the briefest moment, their eyes met. Elena couldn't explain why, but the look felt like recognition, as if he glimpsed the battle she kept hidden behind her polite smile. Her co-workers teased her later. Asterisk, you served the president. Did he tip? Asterisk, she forced a laugh. But what haunted her wasn't the encounter itself. It was that fleeting eye contact. On break, she sat in the corner, chewing on her pen. She thought of her mother fighting cancer back in Texas, her father who left when she was 10, the bills piling on the counter of their small apartment. She wondered what it would take for someone like Trump to see her world. When she returned to the floor, her heart nearly stopped. He was still there, sitting by the window, sipping his coffee slowly, as if savoring the rare chance at anonymity. Maybe this was her chance. Gathering courage, she walked over with a napkin in hand. "Excuse me, sir," she said softly. He looked up, eyebrow raised. I don't usually do this, but I have a request." She placed the napkin down. In shaky ink, she had written, "Asterisk, would you listen to one story? Just one. Asterisk." For a moment, he didn't speak. Then, with unexpected gentleness, he nodded. "All right, tell me." Elena sat across from him, apron bunched in her fists. "I grew up in San Antonio. My mom raised me after my dad left. She worked 2, sometimes 3 jobs just to put food on the table." Trump leaned back, hands folded, listening. "I was the first in my family to go to college. I studied nursing because I wanted to help people. But then Mom got sick. Cancer. I had to drop out to support her. Now I'm here, making lattes, drowning in bills, wondering if dreams are only for people who can afford them." Her voice cracked. She hadn't meant to unravel in front of him, but the words spilled out anyway. Trump's gaze softened. "That's tough. Very tough. Most people don't realize how heavy that is. You're carrying 2 lives, not just one." Elena blinked. She hadn't expected empathy. She expected a polite nod, maybe a brush off. Not this. "Why did you tell me this?" he asked. "Because powerful people forget what life is like for the rest of us," she whispered. "And I wanted someone to remember." The room seemed heavier. Trump stared at his cup, then back at her. "You'd be surprised," he said quietly, "how much I remember." He tapped his fingers against the coffee. "People think they know me, the speeches, the headlines. But they don't see the nights I don't sleep, the weight of choices that affect millions, the people I couldn't help, even when I wanted to." Elena tilted her head, caught off guard by the crack in his voice. "When I was young, I watched my father work harder than anyone. He wasn't perfect, but he taught me one thing. Success means nothing if you can't look someone in the eye and say you tried your best for them." Her throat tightened. "Do you feel like you've tried your best?" The question lingered. Trump sighed, almost weary. "Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But hearing your story, it reminds me that every decision isn't about numbers. It's about faces. People like you. People who can't afford to be invisible." For the first time in years, Elena felt seen. A voice called her from the counter, pulling her back. She stood reluctantly. "I should get back." "Thank you for telling me," Trump said. Not many have the courage. The rest of her shift blurred. When the cafe emptied, Trump finally rose to leave, but at the table, next to his empty cup, was a folded napkin. Elena waited until the door closed behind him before picking it up. In bold handwriting, it read, Asterisk, don't stop fighting for your dreams. You've got more strength than you know. DT asterisk. Her hands trembled as she tucked it into her apron. That night, after closing, she unfolded it again. The words didn't erase the bills or her mother's illness, but they gave her something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Maybe my story isn't over yet, she whispered. And somewhere across the city, Donald Trump sat quietly in his motorcade, thinking of the young barista who had reminded him of something he feared he was forgetting, the power of listening. The next morning, Elena's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Elena groaned, half asleep, as her phone buzzed on the nightstand. She grabbed it lazily, expecting another shift reminder, but her screen was lit with dozens of notifications. Asterisk, you're trending on Twitter. Asterisk, her stomach flipped. She clicked the link her friend had sent. A grainy photo popped up, her sitting across from Donald Trump in Starbucks, eyes wide, napkin in hand. The caption read, Asterisk, barista opens up the president during coffee break. What did she say? Asterisk, her heart sank. That moment had been private, personal. Now it was everywhere. By the time she arrived at work, reporters were camped outside the store, cameras flashing. Her manager looked equal parts stressed and proud. You're famous now, Elena, he said. People want to hear your story. But Elena didn't feel famous. She felt exposed. She hadn't spoken for the world, only for herself. Inside the White House, aides showed Trump the coverage. He studied the photos silently. One aide joked, she might turn into a symbol, sir. Trump didn't smile. Instead, he said quietly, she already is. That evening, as Elena was locking up the cafe, her phone rang from an unknown number. She almost ignored it, until a calm voice said, Hello, Elena. This is the White House. Her knees nearly gave out. The White House? Yes. The president was moved by your conversation yesterday. He'd like to invite you to a private meeting. If you're comfortable. Her pulse raced. This had to be a dream. I don't know what to say. Say yes. The aide replied warmly. She did. And when she hung up, she sat on the floor, trembling. She wasn't a politician. She wasn't a speaker. She was just a barista. What could she possibly say in the Oval Office that would matter? But then she heard her mother's voice in her memory. Asterisk, courage isn't about being ready. It's about speaking when your heart knows it has to. Asterisk. The next day, Elena stood inside the Oval Office, palms clammy, knees shaking. The grandeur of the room pressed in on her. The flags, the polished desk, the weight of history in every corner. Trump entered, offering a small smile. Elena, glad you came. Thank you for inviting me, she whispered. They sat and Trump leaned forward. Yesterday you gave me a glimpse, but I want the whole picture. What's it really like for people your age? Her voice trembled, but once she started, she couldn't stop. She spoke of student debt that crushed dreams before they began, of healthcare costs that hollowed out families, of young people working themselves into exhaustion, yet still falling behind. She described the loneliness of her generation, feeling invisible, suspended between survival and hope. Trump listened silently, occasionally jotting notes. When she finished, her throat tight, she said, I don't expect miracles. I just wanted you to know what it feels like to be us. For a moment, the Oval Office was still. Then Trump said softly, You've given me something no report or statistic ever could. Perspective. Elena's eyes burned. For the first time, she felt she hadn't just spoken for herself. She'd spoken for millions. Before she left, Trump rose and looked her directly in the eye. Elena, I can't promise to fix everything overnight, but I promise you this. I won't forget your words. When I sit in this office, I'll remember the barista from Starbucks who reminded me who I'm serving. Her throat tightened. That means more than you know. He slipped her a card. This is a private number. If you ever feel like your voice isn't being heard, call me directly. Her jaw dropped. Are you serious? Dead serious. Walking out of the White House, Elena clutched the card like it was a lifeline. For the first time in years, she believed her story mattered. That night, she told her mother everything, showing her both the napkin and the card. Her mother, frail in bed, squeezed her hand with a weak smile. Mija, I always told you, you were born with a voice that could move mountains. Now, even the president listens to you. Tears blurred Elena's vision. I just wanted someone to see us, Mom. And you did, her mother whispered. Not just for us, for so many others. The words sank deep. Elena realized she was carrying more than her own story now. She was carrying a generation's. Over the next week, her story spread like wildfire. News outlets called her Asterisk, the barista who spoke truth to power. Asterisk students wrote, thanking her for voicing their struggles. Parents messaged, saying she'd given them hope that someone was listening. But with attention came backlash. Online trolls accused her of chasing fame. Some called her story a lie. Others said she was being used as a pawn. The cruel words cut deep. One night, Elena broke down, whispering to her mother, maybe I should have stayed silent. Her mother shook her head firmly, eyes glistening. No, Elena, silence changes nothing. Your voice already stirred the world. Don't let the noise make you forget why you spoke. Never forget this, Elena, her mother had told her. Silence never changes the world. And remember, the louder the critics, the stronger the truth. Those words steadied her. She knew she couldn't back down. She had to keep going, not just for herself, but for everyone who felt invisible. A week later, the bell above Starbucks rang again. Cameras trailed behind, but Donald Trump waved the press to stay outside. Inside, Elena was wiping the counter when she looked up and froze. You came back, she gasped. Trump grinned. I owed you a refill. The cafe erupted in laughter, but beneath the humor was something else. Respect. He wasn't just keeping a promise. He was showing the world that listening mattered. This time, when she handed him his coffee, he looked her in the eye. I have a question for you now. What's that? She asked cautiously. If you had the power to change just one thing, what would it be? Elena's mind flooded with answers. Student loans, health care, wages. But she drew in a steady breath and spoke from her heart. I'd change the way people see each other, she said softly. We're so divided, so angry. If we could just look at each other as human, like you saw me that day, maybe we'd fight less and listen more. The cafe fell silent. Even the baristas stopped working. Trump nodded slowly. For the first time, Elena thought she saw humility in his eyes. Before leaving, he told her, next week I'm giving a speech. I want you there, on stage with me, not in the crowd. Her mouth dropped. On stage? Why me? Because your story needs to be heard, not just by me. Fear twisted in her chest, but then she remembered the napkin. Don't stop fighting for your dreams. She straightened. I'll be there. The day of the speech, Elena stood backstage, knees trembling as cameras flashed across a sea of faces. Trump introduced her with unexpected warmth. This is Elena Rivera. She isn't a politician. She isn't wealthy. She's a barista. But she taught me something every leader needs to remember. Behind every policy are real people with real struggles and real dreams. The crowd applauded, and Elena stepped forward, voice shaking but steady. She told her story, her mother's illness, the debts, the nights of doubt, and the fragile hope that someone might listen. When she finished, the room was silent. Then slowly, people rose to their feet, clapping. Some even wiped tears. In that moment, Elena realized her voice could ripple far beyond her own life. Clips of her speech went viral. Students, workers, single parents, all saw themselves in her words. She received letters from across the country. Thank you for speaking for us. She never asked to be a symbol, yet she had become one, not of politics, but of resilience and hope. One evening, a package arrived at her door. Inside was a framed napkin, the very one Trump had left her that first day. Beneath it lay a handwritten note. Asterisk, you reminded me what leadership is about. Don't ever underestimate your voice. Donald J. Trump asterisk. Elena sat on her bed, tears streaming. That napkin, once just a small encouragement, had become the turning point of her life. Months later, her mother's health worsened. Bills piled higher than ever. Elena feared she might lose her despite everything. Then one morning, the hospital called. Miss Rivera, your mother's treatment has been fully covered. Anonymous donor. Elena's breath caught. She didn't need to ask who. Her mother, eyes shining with tears, whispered. He didn't just listen. He acted. Elena hugged her tightly. We're not invisible anymore, Mom. Not to him. Not to anyone. Years later, Elena would look back on that ordinary Tuesday at Starbucks as the day her world shifted. A small act of courage, asking to be heard, had sparked a ripple that touched thousands, maybe millions. The framed napkin still hung on her wall, not as a reminder of Donald Trump, not even of politics, but a simple, unshakable truth. Every story matters. Every voice can create change. Asterisk, asterisk.